السلام عليكم أصدقائي، معكم أخوكم حسن بكري من سوريا. اليوم نزلت لعبة جديدة بعنوان ليتل أورفيوس. اللعبة كتير حلوة كدقة ومسلية، وحابب أعمل فيها سلسلة لهاللعبة. بتمنى تعطوني رأيكم، تكتبوا بالكومنتات وتحطوا اللايك ليصلكم كل جديد. ربي يسعدكم، مشاهدة ممتعة، والسلام عليكم. يا حبيبي،
Terrible lizard intent on making
والله
a
شفت
snack
الفيديو
of
الصوت
me
كان
was
حيرجع.
none other than the most awful of the monsters,
المهم صارت
the
3 حلقات
Tyrannosaurus
بتكمل.
Rex.
Oh, now you are an expert on
طول مع
dinosaurs.
حسن
Hardly
بيلعب
an
معي
expert,
لعبة.
General.
أنا
Just
بدي أحسن
educated by the
كتير.
best schools in the
اللعبة
world,
كتير
like all
قوي،
good
بس
socialists.
كمان
And
تعملوا
I remembered
سبسكرايب.
one crucial thing.
I'm listening.
Well, its greed is without
فيني
bottom,
أسوي، بس
its
ما بعرف
hunger
أديرها.
is ferocious,
خلص بطلها.
but its brain is absolutely tiny. So it can roar and roar as much as it likes, but it will never be a match for the sharpened mind of the good Soviet worker. All I needed was a plan to outwit the monster. Imagine my shock and surprise to find in that clearing the last part of the rocket drill. More shocking was the fact it had been ransacked. Someone had made off with the tools, the weapons, the rations, and the spare parts for the Pragviev. I began to suspect foul play. Perhaps little Orpheus was not lost at all, but stolen. All I could do was follow the trail further into Plutonia.
لا، أنا كنت خبيت على الأفطس. كنت على الأفطس ورحت خبرت شوف. عرفت وشو؟ خليه ياكلني.
So we all agree this was the fabled land of Plutonia, do we? I don't remember accepting that.
I will admit it might not have been Plutonia if you are prepared to accept the dinosaur.
This isn't a negotiation, Ivan Ivanovich.
General, you can disagree all you like, but there's very little you can do to persuade me it wasn't a dinosaur.
I might not be able to persuade you, but I can always have you shot.
يا عم مش عارف اصورها. نط يا اخوان. لا بلعني. افطس مرة ثانية اكلني. سلام يا سلام على بيضات الديناصور. حركة البيضة. بيض بعيون. كأنه عم تتحرك. لا عم تتحرك يا حبيبي. يعني فظيعة اللعبة يا شباب.
You hid in an egg.
Yes, General. I hid in an egg.
I'm glad to hear your military training was not wasted. If only I had a single legion of men as brave and ingenious as you, with only 100 men equipped with eggs to hide in, we could roll across Europe in a day.
General, are you mocking me?
You are as sharp as you are brave, Tavarish.
لي هذا كله ذهب يا معلم، صرت غني. هذا بطلع شكله لفوق. كيف السكن اللي معي؟ لازم اطلع لهون شكلي. في مكان اطلع لفوق من بين هدول في زعمات. كل هذيك الجهة لازم. ايه لازم اسحبها. مش لهنيك أنا. هذا لازم كمان اسحبه. يمكن اطلع هيك. يا اخي في مكان لازم اطلع فيه من هون. مستحيل، لازم ما ارجع. لك معقول يسوي لي مكان هيك مثل هذيك؟
I couldn't believe it. I still struggle to believe it. A whole lost city, buried in that jungle deep below the crust of the earth. Who would have thought it was possible?
Who indeed? It is, of course, a shame you didn't think to record the moment for posterity and help us all to get over our disbelief.
But I did, General, I did. My training was excellent, and I immediately took out my комсомолец and began to document all I could.
شوفوا شو مراجع قديش عظمة قوي هدول. لازم تكون صورة.
So, where is this camera now, then?
Ah, General, yes. What, of course, I meant to say was my training was excellent, and I immediately reached for my camera, only to realize it must have been torn from my utility belt in the crash and lost forever in that forgotten jungle. Horrendous beast had returned and was hungrier than ever.
Perhaps it was angry it had been fooled by an egg-wearing idiot.
That is unkind, General. It may have been small of brain, but it was grand of stature.
Whereas you, Ivan Ivanovich, are lacking in both departments. Presuming there were no more eggs to hide in, did you have a new plan? Please.
I did, General.
Do tell me, what was this brilliant plan?
I ran like hell, General.
نطيت يا اخي نطيت، بس يمكن كان على ايده زيت.
Please, do tell me, what was this brilliant plan?
I ran like hell, General.
سوي يعني مثلا؟ يعني انا بتاعي نطلع حاله.
Please, do tell me, what was this brilliant plan?
I ran like hell, General.
ارقد. ما في شي نخبطوا فيه نعمل شي يا شباب.
Will our intrepid yet doomed hero survive the jaws of the ferocious dinosaur? Will he meet his end, miles underground as an aperitif for a ravenous raptor? What dark secrets could be buried in the lost city of Agatha? Will the general ever discover the location of his lost bomb? All of these questions and more will be answered in the next exciting episode of Little Orpheus!
شو هلا انا ختمتها هيك ولا شو؟ الحلقة الأولى إلى المركز. يلا سلام يا سلام.
What luck! What a miracle! For one moment I was rushing into the fetid tonsils of that horrible monster. The next, I was plummeting downwards to the jungle floor beyond its reach. I prayed I would land on something soft.
Perhaps your head.
But nothing could have prepared me for what was about to unfold. An epic saga of pride, power, and revolution. A struggle for freedom the likes of which our world has never seen. And it happened like this.
ليك شوفي هني. شفتوا كان في واحد هني.
Who were those strange, gentle monsters who towered above me? I could only guess they were the lost tribe of the Menf, an earlier race of people. But why were they so fearful of those ancient gates that lay just beyond their village? And why did they seem to recognize me? Why?
هاي العالم يا معلم. أنا بكوكب المريخ يا شباب.
Yes, I'm also wondering why.
No, a как же, General? Who was I to question such things? Trapped as I was deep underground. I was more curious, I must admit, about the location of Little Orpheus.
مرحبا يا حبيب.
You talk of a great city, a mighty power. Yet your nymph squatted like savages in huts at its boundary.
They did. And the answer to that mystery lay beyond my grasp at that point. Because it was a wonder, it truly was.
شو سوي يا حبيبي؟ واو، فرق جديد. لعبة بتجنن يا شباب.
The lost city of Agartha.
شو صار معك؟
I hope I may one day see it myself.
والله طلع لي ناس
General,
فنيين.
if only you
صار يحكوا
could.
معي قال لي
Unfortunately, as I shall explain, should you seek Agartha now, you wouldn't find it.
شفنا سيجارتين
It
سوا.
has been utterly destroyed.
Utterly destroyed?
Utterly, General, a tragic loss.
A convenient loss.
I imagine archaeologists weeping as I tell you. But most importantly, before we continue, you must understand one crucial fact about its destruction.
Which is?
It wasn't my fault.
أنقذكم من ثواني يا شباب. بس شو القصة؟ أكيد هون بده يطلع لي شي عملاق.
Those poor, unfortunate Menkf, trapped and kidnapped and dragged away only to return as vicious foot soldiers to some unknown tyrant.
An ancient technological metropolis, powered by a glowing resin, carved from the very earth?
A glowing resin carved from the very earth. Do you see, General?
I fear you are about to enlighten me.
Little Orpheus must have been drained by the impact, but whoever had stolen it and brought it here was no doubt planning to use the agarthan resin to charge up the atomic bomb, restoring the device to its full potential. What sort of man would come up with such a monstrously reckless scheme?
Perhaps the type of man who has such limited understanding of atomic energy that he thinks an ancient metropolis can be powered by shiny marbles.
Little Orpheus must have been drained by the impact, but whoever had stolen it and brought it here was no doubt planning to use the agarthan resin to charge up the atomic bomb, restoring the device to its full potential. What sort of man would come up with such a monstrously reckless scheme?
Perhaps the type of man who has such limited understanding of atomic energy that he thinks an ancient metropolis can be powered by shiny marbles.
يا أخي زديناها. ليش ما تقدر؟
I am curious, Ivan Ivanovich. You talk and talk about this great subterranean city. Yet what you describe sounds strangely familiar. It does in some way bear an uncanny resemblance to the glorious architecture of Comrade Alexei Dushkin. Wouldn't you agree?
Нет, General. I have never heard of this great Tavarish Dushkin or his works.
Interesting. Because you were photographed on the steps of his marvelous Vysotka na Krasnich Varotach, shaking hands with the Glavny Konstruktor.
That was the chief designer? The sweaty little fat man with the bad hearing?
Mind your mouth, Ivan Ivanovich. And don't think you can distract me by slandering one of the great visionaries of our time. Without him, neither of us would be sitting here now.
I must remember to thank him for that, General. Those enslaved mink were trying to stop me. I was sure of that now.
I find myself sympathizing with them, I must admit.
No, General, then I have failed to win you over.
Uh-huh. A point of agreement at last.
Ask again, General. Are you mocking me?
That would be unprofessional, comrade.
I will try harder to convince you then. It is, after all, a cautionary tale of unleashed tyranny.
It is a cautionary tale of unleashed idiocy. But please, do continue.
I stepped from the cable car onto a plateau at the center of the city, where a palace, a vast acropolis, stood. I was reminded of Chelyabinsk-Sorok.
May I ask how you know of Chelyabinsk-Sorok?
My Aunt Masha was a traveling tinker who married a beef investigator from Zlatoust. She told me of a secret but wonderful city in the west. An edifice of sheer power, humbly serving the will and needs of the people.
Yes, unfortunately, that story didn't end so well.
No. That's what Auntie Marcia told me. And perhaps that is why I was also reminded of it. Because the moment I touched the floor in that place, I could tell something was very, very wrong. began to shake alarmingly, and the whole city felt as if it was shuddering. I could only imagine what I would find at the heart of the vast temple.
If it isn't a giant glowing marble, I'm going to be very disappointed.
A huge resin sphere that overshadowed all of the others. I caught glimpses through the twisted architecture. And it was then I saw him.
Him?
The thief, the enslaver, the tyrant, sucking the power from this wondrous city as he drained the very lifeblood of the ancient civilization and drew it into the atomic embrace of little Orpheus. With a song in my heart, I raced onwards to stop him. Drained of its power, the magical heart of the city cracked. It sent shockwaves through the world around me. You monster, General, willing to bring down the mountain itself upon Agatha and bury it forever in his ruthless scheme. I could not save that wondrous place, General. To my shame and regret, I resolved myself to avenge the men, to recapture little Orpheus, and to bring that tyrant to justice.
plucky yet careless hero fall forever through those unknown skies? Will he discover the identity of the brutal thief commanding the army of the Mength? What chance does he have of ever returning to his beloved homeland? How long can the general's patience last? All of these questions and more will definitely be answered in the next exciting episode of Little Orpheus!
I plummeted down through that weird sky towards a great turbulent ocean that roared and swelled. A ferocious sea that offered no hope of survival. I thought of home and wept, unaware that in an instant my fortunes would be changed by an event so bizarre I almost hesitate to tell you. And it happened like this.
A giant whale?
It was huge, General.
You were swallowed by a giant whale.
Yes, General.
You look remarkably well for a man who was swallowed by a whale.
I am blessed with a strong constitution, General.
And I assume you are now going to tell me how you managed to escape from the belly of this giant whale.
Naturally, General. And I must say, it really was a fascinating glimpse into the interior life of one of our world's most magnificent beasts. I consider myself a wiser man after this experience. It is a shame, General. People can be so closed-minded.
I, on the other hand, have little choice but to hear you out. For your own sake, Ivan Ivanovich, I must urge you to be brief.
Absolutely, General. I will tell you directly of my miraculous escape from the belly of the whale. You simply won't believe what happened next.
That is becoming a dangerously overused phrase, comrade.
And so I found myself deep within the whale's organs. A strangely beautiful place. A sort of fleshy wonderland. A glade of polyps and globules. A landscape as awe-inspiring in its way as the forests and mountains of Altai. Oh, the home, General, that I yearned and longed for and only hoped, as I hope now, that I might one day see again.
I think we're all longing for home at this point.
Oh, with warm slippers, a mug of steaming Spitzin, and a roaring fire. Not far from home, trapped inside a monstrous fish with only the strange and evil-looking worms that infested its gut for company. With only one's dedication to one's country and mission to keep one from falling into despair. But no, General, I could not. I had to escape, to find little Orpheus and my way back to the surface and home.
يا أخي نطلع هيك لا تطلع هون.
you say? Living inside the whale.
Oh, they were horrid things, those worms, General. And most unwelcome, I would say. Parasites. But I had no idea just how rampant their infestation was, nor of the tremendous sizes they could grow to. At that point, my thoughts were only of escape. And I had a plan.
Yes, I'm sure you did. Worms, you say, living inside the whale.
Oh, they were horrid things, those worms, General. And most unwelcome, I would say. Parasites. But I had no idea just how rampant their infestation was, nor of the tremendous sizes they could grow to. At that point, my thoughts were only of escape. And I had a plan.
Yes, I'm sure you did. They made your Nigirayatmin whale sick.
Wherever they attached themselves, the flesh began to turn gray and die. It was a truly distressing sight, and I resolved myself. my mind, it was a simple plan, General. I would climb up through the whale's throat into its mouth, then wait until it opened it to feed and swim out.
Ah, yes. Brilliant, Ivan Ivanovich. Only one or two minor flaws with it. For example, did it not occur to you that the whale would likely be deep underwater when it ate?
Bravo, General. But I am a strong swimmer. As a child, my parents would take us to holiday near Irkutsk, where we took constitutionals in the waters of Lake Baikal. In fact, my mother often called me her маленький морской котик.
A giant worm for a giant whale, huh?
At the risk of repeating myself, it was huge, General.
The Moscow University Zoological Society may be interested after all. Let us take a moment, Ivan Ivanovich. Your ridiculous plan to escape through the mouth of the whale failing, you would now have me believe you had embarked on some misguided crusade to free it of the worm infestation. To what end, exactly?
When one suffers, we all suffer, General.
Your ideological commitment is admirable, comrade, but...
I concluded that if I could find the root of the infestation and neutralize it, the whale could mount a spirited counterattack against the worms. And then, victorious, the whale would surface to expel the remaining poisonous muck and slime from its body. And at that point, I could escape through the nearest convenient orifice. In this case, most likely the blowhole.
That is the most revolting thing I've ever heard.
General, we are Russians. We have withstood the sheer force of nature and history and emerged triumphant. An expedition through the nasal sphincter of a gargantuan whale is nothing to us.
I suppose you would have me believe that the whale was grateful to you.
Oh, well, General, that would be presumptuous. I doubt it was even aware of my presence. But I had more immediate problems. For if the whale might have been relieved by my actions, the worms were enraged.
Worms do furious. Worms
Incandescent.
do not feel
Violently indignant.
emotion.
Demented, General. Deranged.
Enough! Where is little Orpheu? Where is my bomb? Unless you are trying to die. The whale swallowed that as well.
No, it did not, General. That would be absurd.
No, Donovan, you are absurd. Your story is absurd. This whole ridiculous fairy tale is absurd. Will our brave yet foolhardy hero escape the furious worm? Will he be doomed to spend his days trapped in the innards of a bad-tempered cetacean? Where is the whale swimming to in such a rush? And what will it do when it gets there? Is the general about to lose his temper and order the cosmonaut shot? All of these questions and more must surely be answered in the next exciting episode of Little Orpheus!